Hello my dear friends, I want to start by saying something important to you. You are not broken. You are not too old. And you are certainly not beyond help. I know this because I am sitting here at 88 years old, and my mind is sharper today than it has been in years. My name doesn't matter as much as my story, and my story is probably very similar to yours. There was a time when I would walk into my kitchen and stand there, completely lost, wondering what I came for. I would have conversations with my children and forget them completely by the next day. I would look at faces I had known for decades and struggle to remember their names. The worst part wasn't the forgetting itself, it was the shame that came with it. Maybe you know this feeling. Maybe you have stood in your living room, keys in hand, unable to remember where you were planning to go. Maybe you have called your grandchild by their sibling's name, or forgotten about a doctor's appointment you wrote down just yesterday. If this sounds familiar, I want you to know that you are in good company. There are millions of us who have walked this path. But here's what I discovered, and what I want to share with you today: memory loss doesn't have to be your final chapter. There is something simple you can do, something that takes just 3 minutes a day, that can help bring back the clarity you thought was gone forever. I'm not talking about expensive treatments or complicated exercises. I'm talking about something so basic that you already have everything you need to start today. Before I tell you what that is, I want to get to know you a little better. How old are you right now? What state are you calling home? Are you dealing with memory concerns, or are you here because someone you love is struggling? Please take a moment to leave me a comment below. I read every single one, and it truly warms my heart to connect with people who understand this journey. Now, let me tell you how a simple discovery changed everything for me, and how it can change everything for you too. Before we start, I'd love to know, where are you watching from today? Just drop your state or city in the comments below. And if you have any natural health tips of your own, feel free to share those too. Someone else might really benefit from hearing what's worked for you. When memory starts to slip away, it doesn't happen all at once. That's the tricky thing about memory changes as we age. If it happens suddenly, like breaking a bone, we would know exactly when to get help. But memory fades like a sunset, so gradually that you don't notice until you're sitting in darkness, wondering when the light disappeared. For me, it started with little things. I would put my reading glasses down and spend 20 minutes looking for them, only to find them on top of my head. I would start to tell my wife something and realize halfway through that I had already told her the same story that morning. I would go to the grocery store with a mental list and come home with everything except what I actually needed. At first, I laughed about it. Senior moments, I would call them. My friends would nod and share their own stories. We made jokes about getting older, about our minds playing tricks on us. But inside, something was shifting. Each forgotten name, each lost thought, each moment of confusion felt like losing a small piece of myself. The breaking point came during a phone call with my grandson. He was excited about a school play, telling me all about his costume and his lines. He asked if I would come watch him perform. Of course, I said yes. I was so proud of him, and I promised I wouldn't miss it for the world. But when the night of the play arrived, I was at home, completely unaware. I had forgotten entirely. When my daughter called afterward, asking where I had been, I felt something crack inside my chest. My grandson had looked for me in the audience. He had saved me a seat. And I had simply forgotten the most important thing in his young life at that moment. That night, I couldn't sleep. I thought about my own father in his later years, how he would repeat stories and forget faces. I had promised myself I would never become like that. Yet here I was, disappointing the people I loved most because my mind felt like it was wrapped in fog. The scariest part wasn't the forgetting, it was the fear that came with it. I started second-guessing everything. Did I lock the door? Did I take my medication? Did I already tell this story? I began to feel like I couldn't trust my own mind, and that feeling of doubt colored everything I did. Many of my friends were going through similar struggles. We would sit together, and I could see the same worry in their eyes. Some had started writing everything down, carrying notebooks everywhere. Others had begun to withdraw from social situations, afraid of embarrassing themselves. One friend stopped driving because she had gotten lost coming home from the grocery store she had been shopping at for 30 years. What I realize now is that we were all making the same mistake. We were accepting this decline as inevitable, as if growing older meant we had to give up our mental sharpness. We were resigning ourselves to a life of notes and reminders and constant worry about what we might forget next. But that acceptance, that resignation, was actually making things worse. When you stop challenging your mind, when you stop expecting it to work well, it begins to fulfill those lower expectations. The brain, I learned, is much more flexible than we give it credit for, even in our later years. The discovery that changed everything. The answer came from an unexpected source, my 20-year-old granddaughter, the same one whose play I had missed. She was studying psychology in college and had come to visit me one afternoon. She found me sitting in my favorite chair, staring out the window, looking lost. "Grandpa," she said gently, "you seem worried about something." I told her about my memory problems, about how I felt like I was losing myself bit by bit. Instead of offering sympathy or changing the subject, she got excited. "I learned about something in my psychology class that might help," she said. "It's called mindful breathing, and studies show it can actually improve memory and concentration, especially for older adults." I'll be honest, I was skeptical. I had tried brain games and memory exercises before, and they had felt like work without much reward. But she explained that this was different. It wasn't about memorizing or learning new skills. It was about training the basic function of attention, which is what memory depends on. She taught me right there in my living room. "Every morning," she said, "before you check your phone or turn on the TV or even talk to grandma, sit quietly for just 3 minutes. Close your eyes and focus only on your breathing. Feel the air coming in through your nose and going out through your mouth. If your mind wanders, and it will, just gently bring it back to your breath." That was it. No special equipment, no complicated instructions, no expensive programs. Just 3 minutes of quiet breathing every morning. The science behind it, she explained, was actually quite simple. When we breathe slowly and deeply, we send more oxygen to our brain. Our brain cells need oxygen to function properly, and most of us breathe too shallowly throughout the day. Additionally, the act of focusing on one thing, our breath, trains our attention like a muscle. And attention is what allows us to form memories in the first place. I started the very next morning. I sat on the edge of my bed, closed my eyes, and breathed. The first few times, my mind wandered constantly. I would think about my grocery list, or wonder what my wife was doing in the kitchen, or worry about a doctor's appointment. But each time I noticed my mind had wandered, would gently bring it back to my breath, just like my granddaughter had taught me. After about a week, something subtle began to shift. I wasn't suddenly remembering everything perfectly, but I felt more present, more awake. I began to notice small details I had been missing, the way the morning light hit the kitchen table, the sound of birds outside my window, the texture of my coffee mug in my hands. The transformation begins. The first real sign that something was changing came during my second week of practice. I was getting ready to go to the pharmacy, and instead of writing down a list, I decided to challenge myself. I stood in the kitchen, took a deep breath, and mentally reviewed what I needed: my prescription refill, some vitamins, and a birthday card for my neighbor. When I got to the pharmacy, I remembered all 3 items without checking a note. It might seem like a small thing, but for someone who had been relying on written lists for months, it felt like a victory. More changes began to follow. I started remembering conversations better. When my wife would mention something that had happened earlier in the day, I could recall not just the facts but the feelings behind them. I began to contribute more to family discussions instead of just nodding along, worried that I might have forgotten something important. The improvement in my sleep was unexpected but welcome. Before starting this practice, I would often lie awake at night with my mind racing, worrying about what I might forget tomorrow or trying to remember something from earlier in the day. After my morning breathing sessions, I found that I went to bed calmer, and my sleep became deeper and more restful. My mood improved too. I felt more confident in social situations. I stopped avoiding conversations because I was afraid I might forget someone's name or lose track of what I was saying. I began to tell jokes again, something I had stopped doing because I was worried I might repeat myself. My wife noticed the changes before I did. "You seem more like yourself lately," she said one morning. "More present, more engaged." She was right. I felt like I was waking up from a fog I hadn't even realized I was living in. But the most meaningful change was in my relationship with my grandson. I remembered to ask him about his next school performance, and this time, I didn't forget. I was there in the front row, watching him shine on stage. After the show, he hugged me and said, "Thanks for remembering, Grandpa." Those words meant more to me than any medical treatment or memory test ever could. The science made simple. You might be wondering how something so simple could have such a profound effect. The answer lies in understanding how our brains work as we age, and the good news is much more encouraging than you might think. For years, scientists believed that our brains were fixed after a certain age, that we couldn't grow new brain cells or form new connections. We now know this is completely false. The brain has what scientists call neuroplasticity, which means it can change and adapt throughout our entire lives. Even at 80, 90, or 100 years old, your brain is still capable of growing stronger. The 3-minute breathing practice works because it targets the specific things your brain needs to function well. First, slow, deep breathing increases the amount of oxygen in your blood, and oxygen is like food for your brain cells. When your brain is well oxygenated, it can work more efficiently. Second, focusing on your breath trains your attention. Think of attention like a muscle. If you don't use it, it gets weak. But if you exercise it regularly, it gets stronger. When your attention is strong, you're better able to focus on what's happening around you, which is the first step in forming memories. Third, this practice reduces stress, and stress is one of the biggest enemies of memory. When we're stressed, our bodies produce hormones that can actually interfere with memory formation. By spending just 3 minutes in calm, focused breathing, we lower these stress hormones and create better conditions for our brains to work. Studies at universities like Harvard and Johns Hopkins have shown that people who practice mindful breathing for just 8 weeks show measurable improvements in memory tests. Brain scans reveal that areas of the brain responsible for memory and attention actually become more active and, in some cases, physically larger. The beauty of this approach is that it works with your brain's natural abilities rather than against them. You're not forcing yourself to memorize lists or learn complicated techniques. You're simply creating optimal conditions for your brain to do what it naturally wants to do: pay attention and remember. Making it work for you. Now that you understand what this practice can do, let me show you exactly how to make it part of your daily routine. The key to success isn't perfection, it's consistency. Doing this practice imperfectly every day is much better than doing it perfectly once a week. When to practice: the best time is first thing in the morning, before you check your phone, turn on the TV, or even have your first cup of coffee. Your mind is clearest when you first wake up, before the day's distractions begin. If mornings don't work for you, the second best time is right before bed, as it can help you sleep better too. Where to practice: you don't need a special room or expensive equipment. Find a quiet spot where you won't be interrupted for 3 minutes. This could be sitting on the edge of your bed, in your favorite chair, or even at your kitchen table. The important thing is that it's comfortable and familiar. How to sit: you can sit in a chair with your feet flat on the floor and your back supported, or you can lie down if that's more comfortable. Rest your hands gently on your lap or at your sides. Close your eyes if you'd like, or simply look down at your hands. What to do: begin by taking a slow, deep breath through your nose. Feel your chest and belly rise gently. Then slowly exhale through your mouth, feeling your body relax. Continue breathing this way, focusing only on the sensation of air moving in and out of your body. When your mind wanders, and it will, gently guide your attention back to your breath without judging yourself. How long? 3 minutes is perfect. You can set a gentle timer, or simply count your breaths. Most people take about 12 to 15 slow breaths in 3 minutes, so you can use that as a rough guide. Making it stick. The secret to success is linking this new habit to something you already do every day. Perhaps you do it right after you brush your teeth, or before you have your morning coffee. By connecting it to an existing routine, you're more likely to remember to do it. What to expect? Don't expect miraculous changes overnight. Some people notice improvements within a few days, while others take several weeks. The important thing is to be patient with yourself and trust the process. Remember, you're retraining your brain, and like any training, it takes time to see results. Your journey starts now. I want to leave you with this thought: you have more power over your memory than you might believe. The brain you have right now, regardless of your age, is still capable of growth, change, and improvement. You don't need to accept forgetfulness as an inevitable part of aging. The 3-minute breathing practice I've shared with you costs nothing, requires no special skills, and can be done anywhere. All it asks of you is consistency and patience. Give it 7 days. Just 7 days of 3 minutes each morning. Notice how you feel, how clearly you think, how present you are in your daily life. Remember, this isn't just about memory, it's about reclaiming your confidence, your sense of self, and your ability to fully participate in the life you love. It's about being present for the people who matter to you and present for yourself. You are not too old to change. You are not too set in your ways to try something new. And you are certainly not beyond help. Your best days can still be ahead of you. I encourage you to start tomorrow morning. Sit quietly, breathe deeply, and give yourself the gift of 3 minutes of peace. Your mind will thank you, your family will notice the difference, and you'll begin to feel like yourself again. Please share your experience in the comments below. I would love to hear how this practice works for you, and your story might inspire someone else to take that first step toward better memory and a clearer mind. Thank you for taking this journey with me. Remember, it's never too late to remember again.